Hey all, I am going to show you how I put shoes on a horse. This piece was sold at Briarfest last year. This is Carol Williams Vitrix that I did in a very loud Appaloosa. But the winner of the auction decided she wanted shoes to be put on. So I purchased, these are from Rio Rondo. They are cast pewter, traditional scale shoes, and some Duco Cement. Now, honestly, I've never used Duco Cement before, so this was highly recommended, so I'm going to give it a try. So the first thing I need to do is take the shoes out, obviously. And sometimes there's some flashing on them, and I'll want to get that off. All right, I had to pause for a second because I'm fumbling around with my fingers here trying to get these out. All right, so here we are. Here are the shoes. And you can see some on the edging here, there's a little bit of this flashing. So I'm going to want to get that off, clean these up a little bit. So you can see on this one here too. This is just part of the molding process. Really easy. I just use a needle file and file that down. Get my old reliable here. And I just carefully, you want to go easy because this is a very soft metal. And just get that flashing off. Sometimes sandpaper will work too. I just find it easier with my needle files. So you want to do this to all the shoes. Get all that flashing off around there. And then once you have that done, I'll show you the next step. All right, so I've sanded down her shoes. They have nice smooth edges on them. And now I need to make sure that they're going to fit her. So you want to line them up on the hoof. Obviously refer to real horse pictures of shod hooves. You want to make sure that the edge of the shoe lines up with the hoof edge, just like on a real horse. So I may need to maneuver this around a bit. You want to make sure obviously the front is to the front of the hoof, but the nice thing with the pewter is it's a softer metal, so you can kind of manipulate it a little bit. And once I have it where I think I am going to be able to fit it, you can see that it overhangs the back of the hoof, so I may need to trim this off. You can use little nippers to do that. Again, this metal is very soft, so it's easy enough to cut with a little nipper. And then you can fit it, and then it's just a matter of gluing it on to the hoof. And then once it's dried, then I'll go in and put in with some paint, some silver paint, the Nailheads, and I'll show you that momentarily. Okay, so I finished sanding down the flashing on here. So each one of these has a nice smooth edge, and they are now ready to put on the horse. So I just used one of my sanding sponges. This one here is a little coarser grit, and then one of my needle files, and got all that flashing off. Next step will be to put them on the horse. But the first thing we want to do is make sure they are sized up. I may need to do some trimming. Vitrix, her feet are a little on the smaller side, so I may need to trim these down a little bit. All right, so I've sanded down her shoes. They have nice smooth edges on them. And now I need to make sure that they're going to fit her. So you want to line them up on the hoof. Obviously refer to real horse pictures of shod hooves. You want to make sure that the edge of the shoe lines up with the hoof edge, just like on a real horse. So I may need to maneuver this around a bit. You want to make sure obviously the front is to the front of the hoof, but the nice thing with the pewter is it's a softer metal, so you can kind of manipulate it a little bit. And once I have it where I think I am going to be able to fit it, you can see that it overhangs the back of the hoof, so I may need to trim this off. You can use little nippers to do that. Again, this metal is very soft, so it's easy enough to cut with a little nipper. And then you can fit it, and then it's just a matter of gluing it on to the hoof. And then once it's dried, then I'll go in and put in with some paint, some silver paint, the nail heads, and I'll show you that momentarily. Okay, so just to reiterate, I use a tool like this, a little like a wire cutter nipper, and that I'll use to trim the backs of the shoe so that I know that it fits. I'm going to do this off camera just because the camera is kind of in my way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these here and then just round down the cut edges. I'll use my needle file to do that. Okay, I'm doing a test fit. I've nipped off a bit of the back and it's still sticking out a little too much. So I am double checking. Again, with anything I do, I take my time. Let me see if I can get this angle here. You can see how they're sticking out a little too much. So I'm going to want to nip them back a little bit more. Again, taking my time, going slow, because I don't want to nip off too much and then have them be too short. Okay, this is test fit number 1. And you can see it's still hanging off the back a little bit, so I'm going to nip a little more. Alright, so I've used my nippers and just trimmed a little teeny bit off of the back. You can see it's got those sharp edges again, so I'm going to use my needle file and round these down, shape them up. Alright, I'm going to pause here for a second. I'm going to do this off camera. Okay, test fit number 2. You can see that it's getting there. A little bit closer to where I want to be. I've got that shoe not quite at the toe, so I'm going to back that up just a bit. So I'm almost there. Okay, I think I'm looking pretty good here. So my test fit looks like it fits where it should. I think I need to move the hoof back just a teeny bit. So this is why I do test fits. I don't glue this down right away, so that I can really work on it. Let's see the left side there. I think I need to nip just a teeny bit more, but the right side looks good. Okay, last time. So I've worked on that shoe a little bit more, shaped it down, test fit. This one here I think is ready to glue down. But I'm not going to glue it down just yet. I'm going to work on the other shoes first, doing the same thing. I'll test fit each one, and then once I'm satisfied, then I'll glue them all down, because I'll just stand her up and brace her while the shoes dry. Okay, so her shoes are glued on. Just to recap, I've purchased the metal shoes cast by Rio Rondo, and I used their Duco Cement to fix them on after sizing appropriately and fitting her. I'm ready now to finish some of the detail work, so that's adding nail heads onto her hooves. And I am going to use my Liquitex. I love Liquitex artist colors. This is their iridescent silver, metallic silver, and I'm going to use that. And then thanks to another artist online, she told me about this particular brush. This is by Winsor & Newton. It's a Cotman, and it's a 4-0 brush. You can, I don't know if I can get the number on there for you to see. You can see it's got 4 zeros, so it's a pretty tiny brush. Very small. So I want something like this because I don't want these nail heads to be very large, so a tiny brush like that will suffice. Again, I'm going to go off camera because I need to get a tripod mount for my phone so that I can record. So I apologize that I'm not actually showing you this, but what I'm going to do is just dab a little bit of paint onto my brush, and then I'm going to very carefully add the nail heads. So one thing you need to do is make sure that you look online, unless you have access to a real horse, and look at where the farrier would put the nail heads, nails into the shoe to fix it onto your real horse. So they're going to go in about this area here on each side of the hoof, and same thing. So fronts and backs about the same. I'm going to be doing 3 on each side. That seems to be how they are fixed on these days. I have seen horses with 4, but I guess the trend today is using 3. So double check online and make sure that you put them on in the right place. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so I've added in my nail heads. You can see where I've placed them. Again, using this very tiny round brush. What I did was just load a little tiny bit of paint right on the tip of the brush, and then just straight in dabbed it on very carefully. The nice thing too with acrylics, if you mess it up, you can kind of wash it off, and I did on this shoe. So I did redo it, but you're just trying to rotate her a bit. You can kind of see where I placed those nail heads. I'm gonna move that out of the way. So, I got a little hair there. Get that off. All right, back feet, similar positioning. So that's about it. She now has her shoes. I'll double check with her owner if she wants to have her feet glossed. I think we were kind of thinking just to leave them matte, but if you wanted to, if you were doing a horse that was going to a horse show and you wanted that final finish on them, you can gloss the hooves there for that show finish. I like the Liquitex brand, so I would use let me grab it. This is it right here. Liquitex Gloss Varnish. It comes in a couple of different size bottles. I got the larger one because I wasn't sure. I think there is a smaller bottle if I'm not mistaken. So you could use that. You can paint that over the shoes, the feet once they're fully dry, the nail heads and that'll give a nice high gloss finish. It doesn't yellow, which is nice about this particular material. I use it for eyes and if I needed to do the insides and nostrils. So there she is, all completed. I'll let her dry. If I have any last minute little tweaks, or if the owner wants anything last minute, I'll finish that up, give her a final spray, and she's off to go home. All right. If you like this video, leave me a like, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you have any suggestions for other things I could do, I've had quite a few inquiries about doing some of my Appy work. I'll try to do that as soon as I can get a tripod stand for my phone, or if I can figure out how to get my camera on the tripod to focus in on that kind of detailed work. I can try to do some tutorials on that. All right. Thank you for watching, and take care.